is a middleweight matchup between Kelvin Gastelum and Jacare Souza.
Hey guys, my name's Connor from UK Game Bureau, and welcome to our EA Sports UFC 3 simulation and prediction of Kelvin Gastelum versus Jacare Souza. So to start us off, we're going to have a look at Kelvin Gastelum's record. He's coming into this fight with a record of 14 wins, 3 losses and 1 no contest, and his last fight was a knockout win over Michael Bisping. Kelvin has been on a bit of a roll recently, ever since UFC 200. At UFC 200, he won a unanimous decision over Johnny Hendricks, who is a former welterweight champion. Then at UFC 206, he beat Tim Kennedy by TKO. He then knocked out Vitor Belfort, however it was ruled a no contest due to him failing the drug test. He then fought Chris Weidman and lost by arm triangle choke. And of course, as we just mentioned, most recently, he has a knockout win over Michael Bisping in the first round. So Kelvin Gastelum is a very interesting case. He came up on The Ultimate Fighter in the welterweight division, and in there he was very much a wrestler with some decent boxing. And since then he's gone on to completely evolve his boxing, and I'd say he's one of the most dangerous strikers in the division, with the power and the speed that he possesses. Since moving to middleweight, his only loss has been to Chris Weidman, and it's worth noting that he did drop Chris Weidman in that first round, but then he was eventually just worn out, taken down, and he was submitted by the former champion. It is worth noting that he only fights at middleweight instead of welterweight, as he was forced to move up due to him constantly missing weight. Now Kelvin isn't a particularly large guy, I believe he's around 5'10", 5'11", so he's not a huge middleweight, but it's just the power and the speed that he possesses that make him dangerous to any guy in this division. His offensive wrestling is very good, however defensively it's not as great. Neil Magny and Rick Story were able to take him down quite repeatedly, and Neil Magny was actually able to win a split decision over him due to being able to control him on the ground. So now let's have a look at Jacare's record. Jacare is coming into this fight with a record of 25 wins, 5 losses, and 1 no contest, with 14 of those being by submission. Jacare is one of the most lethal guys on the ground in the entire UFC. I would argue the most lethal. He may not be the best technically, but when it comes to submission threat and ground and pound threat, I think he is the scariest guy in the whole UFC. Now, as well as being absolutely lethal on the ground, Jacare is very dangerous on the feet. He's not the fastest guy, he's not the most technical guy, but he has a lot of power in both his hands and in his kicks. He is also very good at getting takedowns as well, especially from the clinch or up against the cage. He's not the best when he's shooting for singles or doubles, but he's very unorthodox with his takedowns, and he is very good at getting them, as I said, with his trips and with his sweeps. For me, this fight instantly favours Jacare purely because he has more ways to win than Kelvin, which is what I like to see in a fight. On the feet, this fight's going to be very interesting. As I mentioned, Kelvin does have a lot of power and he's very speedy. I would give him both the power advantage and the speed advantage over Jacare. The question will be, can he clip him and can he knock him out before Jacare can get him to the ground? And my answer to that is going to be no. When you see people like Rick Story and Neil Magny able to take down Kelvin and able to control him on the ground, you gotta think that Jacare, who is a much larger guy, could arguably fight at 205 against a former welterweight. I feel like Jacare is going to be able to take this guy down. I feel like he can bully him up against the cage, and I feel like he can really use his size to wear on Gastelum. And as soon as Jacare takes him down, as good as Kelvin is, I really don't see him being able to defend submissions or ground and pound for all 3 rounds. And I do think that eventually Jacare is going to catch him in a submission. So my prediction is going to be a Jacare Souza second round submission win. So on our EA Sports UFC 3 simulation of Jacare Souza versus Kelvin Gastelum, we had a TKO win for Jacare Souza at 3 minutes 3 seconds of the very first round. And if you're planning on watching this fight, let us know in the comments down below, either on YouTube, Facebook or Twitter, and let us know your prediction and we can see if anyone gets it right after the fight. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button down below, and as always, to see more videos coming soon, please subscribe to the channel.